Oh. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karuna Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranashchakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam Ne Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mai Santo Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, we are in Chandogya Upanishad and we have completed the sixth mantra in the eighth section. So we'll just recap a little bit and then we will move forward. Now, where are we? Uddālaka Ṛṣī is trying to tell Śvetaketu, know your true self from these three things that happen in your life, right? You will be able to realize yourself from three experiences that happen. The first is sleep. He says, when you go to sleep, you become one with Sat. You become one with your true essence. There is, no notion of individuality at all when we are in deep sleep. No notion of the world, of time, of space. So this is one state where we are our true selves, except we are unaware of it. The second is, he said, know your true self from hunger and thirst. Because the body is composed, we have seen in Chandogya Upanishad, of earth, water, and fire, right? These three things, they make up our body. And the subtlest part of earth becomes the mind. Earth or food becomes the mind. The subtlest part of water is the prana. The subtlest part of fire is speech. Now, in our bodies, what happens is when we eat food, when we become hungry, we eat food, that food is led by water. So we call Ashanaya hunger, and Ashanaya is also water, the leader of food, rather. And when water leads food into our system, that juice, that essence, again, is led by fire. So we call that thirst, udanya, and we also call fire, which is the leader of water, udanya. And so everything has a root. Everything has a root. So the root of, let us say, food or earth is water, because it is led by water. The root of water is fire, because it is led by fire. And when we come to fire, what is the root of fire? The root of fire is Sat, or pure being, pure existence. So in this way, he says, analyze your daily experience of just hunger and thirst. go to the root of your hunger and thirst and see where is it leading you, from food, earth, to water, to fire, and eventually we will end up in pure existence or pure being. So everything has a mula, root. Then he says, know yourself also in the process of death. Because what happens in death, and he explained this, I ended with this last time, so we'll just review this part. He says, in death, this is what happens. Prayataha, purushasya prayataha. Of that being, of that person who is departed, vang manasi sampadyate. So the first thing that happens is the speech merges into the mind. The speech merges into the mind. And we know the mind is subtler than speech because first thoughts form, then only we're able to speak. So the first thing is the speech merges into mind. Then manah prane. The mind merges into the pranas. Just like in deep sleep, our mind is, it is resolved and only the pranas are active. In the same way, in death, speech is resolved to the mind and the mind is resolved in our pranas and only our pranas are active. And when our pranas are active, so there's still breathing going on, people say, okay, is this person alive or not? Is this person alive or not? And the breath begins to slow down and slow down and slow down. But what happens is there's still heat in the body. There's still heat in the body. So eventually, pranaha merges into tejas, pranas tejasi. That breath, that prana, it merges into fire, into that fire element. And then when the heat of the body is gone, tejaf parasyam devatayam, when the heat of the body is gone, we now know that this person has merged into Sat or pure being. So this person has gone back into Sat. So in these three examples, in deep sleep, hunger and thirst, and in death, we can always trace ourselves back to existence. And in fact, Uddālaka Ṛṣī says that this Sat, pure existence, is the mula, is a root of the world. And it's Sat Ayatana, it's the abode of the world, means everything is sustained in Sat. And Sat Pratishta, everything goes into Sat. So let's analyze this for one moment before we go to the mahāvākya. What Uddālaka Ṛṣī is trying to say is, to determine the cause of this entire world, as we saw in Panchadashi chapter 2, it has to be an all-pervasive substance. It cannot be something that is just in one part and not in the other. So if we think about space-time being the cause of the universe, that cannot be because there's no space-time in our deep sleep. So that gets ruled out. Then some people might say, well, maybe it's the atoms, right? It's these atoms or quarks, these particles that are the cause of the universe, of the entire world, because they are all pervading. That may be, but they are also inert. They are an object of our experience. They have no awareness. So nowhere in our scriptures will we see, or not even our scriptures, in daily life, will we see something inert create something conscious and aware. And I know for a fact that I'm aware. And you know for a fact, nobody else has to tell you. So it cannot also be these atoms or particles or quarks. So what is it that pervades every single thing? The most pervasive, all-pervasive substance, if we want to call it, that is called existence, Sat, pure being. So because that is the most pervasive thing, that has to be the cause. So if I say, so clay is the cause of this pot, but clay is limited. It's not going to be the cause of this bottle. So clay cannot be the cause of the universe. What is the cause of the universe has to be all pervasive. Now, the second question comes that is this cause, did this pure being or Sat, right? Is this inert? The answer is no. This pure being is also what we call Chit or awareness. In fact, this Sat and Chit is nothing but one thing. Just like fire has the nature of heat and light, right? Fire has the nature of heat and light. And this is very evident when we look at fire. In some places, fire will manifest as heat and light. If we're roasting like a marshmallow, you'll feel the marshmallow become hot, and you'll also see the light of the fire in the marshmallow itself. But when we are boiling water, we are going to feel the heat of fire. You see it's boiling, but you won't see the light of fire in the water. You won't see that. But that doesn't mean that fire's nature is not heat and light. It is heat and light, but in water, the light is not evident. The light nature of fire is not evident, only the heat nature. In the same way, in that marshmallow that we're roasting, that light nature is evident and that heat nature is also evident, right? So Sat and Chit, existence and consciousness, they're only one thing. How do I know? Because that from which everything is created, I am also a part of that. And I exist and I am aware. This is my direct experience. I exist and I am aware. And this we cannot separate. This pure existence and pure awareness, we cannot separate. If we say existence is different from awareness, then existence would be inert. And if we say awareness is different from existence, then it would be non-existent, right? But I have a direct experience that I exist and I am aware. So the substratum then is that Sat, which is also Chit. Then another question comes that did this Sat and Chit, did it transform itself to become the world? Like did existence and consciousness become this world, become this manifold world of names and forms, become this multitude universe, become all these beings? And the answer is no, because any cause that transforms itself into an effect, it modifies itself. It becomes modified in the process. So if a mother gives birth to a child, what happens is she's the cause and the child is the effect. She is giving birth, but she's also going to go through modification. If we are creating something, we're creating a machine, right? So I am creating a machine. The machine is the effect. I'm the cause. I'm also going to go through modifications in my mind and in my body. So according to our Upanishads, this existence, consciousness, Sat, Chit, this is eternal. It's not changing. So it cannot transform or become the universe. This existence, awareness, or consciousness, it appears as the universe. So this, it is like the dream example is the best example. Best example, because there we can clearly see that the dreamer's mind appears as the whole entire dream, all the dream beings, all the dream places, all the dream circumstances. So this existence and this awareness, which is one, appears as this whole universe. Because it's an appearance, we don't really call it cause. So now here's one more level we have to think. We only call something cause if it produces an effect. But existence never produced the world. Therefore, because it didn't produce the world, it's not a cause, because there is no effect. It is just an appearance. And so that's why Uddālaka Ṛṣī uses the word mula. It's the root. It's a root. It's not the cause. It's the ultimate root. The substratum of the world is pure being, Sat, existence. That's what Sanmulaha means. Sanmulaha. This is in mantra number 6, right? Sanmulaha. And Sat Ayatanaha means because everything appears, from Sat, everything is also sustained in Sat. Just like the dream appears from the dreamer's mind and it's sustained also in the dreamer's mind. So everything is sustained in pure existence. And that's why we say everything is. This is, this is, this is. Everything exists. We see that. And Sat Pratishtaha means everything merges back into existence. Like in the dream, the whole dream merges back into that dreamer's mind. So in this way, the substratum of the world is Sat. And it is the most pervasive substance, and it does not become the world, it appears as the world. And so this ties in with what we saw before, that particular line, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam, mrittika iti eva satyam, which means basically that although there are many, many names and forms, there's only one substance. Just like in clay, there could be pot, pitcher, glass, etc. Different forms, different names, but it's only one clay. Everything's just made from one clay. The same way, we can have as many names and as many forms as we want, but there's only one substance that appears as this whole universe, and that is pure being. That is Sat. Now, Uddālaka Ṛṣī is going to say the mahāvākya. He's going to, the next mantra is number 7, where he's going to introduce the mahāvākya tatvamasi. And what he's going to say in essence is that Sat, pure being or existence, which is the substratum of the world, that is you. That is also you. Sa atma tatvamasi. Right? So let us read this mantra. This mantra, exact mantra, will come 9 times. The last time it's a little bit different, but 9 times. So this is the first time that it is coming here in this chapter. Saya esho anima, aitadatmyamidam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tatvamasi Śvetaketu iti. Aitadatmyamidam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tatvamasi Śvetaketu iti. Bhuya eva ma bhagavan vignāpayat viti. Bhuya eva ma bhagavan vignāpayat viti. Tatha somyeti ho vacha. Tatha somyeti ho vacha. So I'll just give the word meaning first. He says saha. Saha means that existence which we talked about. Sanmulaha, sadayatanaha, satpratishtaha, that existence. Yaha, that existence which, eshaha, is this animaha. Animaha means it is this subtle essence, very, very subtle essence. Aitad atmyam idam sarvam. Aitad atmyam means it is the self of idam sarvam, of the entire world. It's the self of the entire world, including me. And what is that self? Tat satyam. It is the truth, the only truth, the only truth. Tat satyam, that pure existence, which is the only truth. Sa atma, that is the self, that is atma. And therefore, tat, that, tvam, you are. Tat tvam asi, that you are. O Śvetaketu. This is what Uddālaka Ṛṣī says. Then Śvetaketu says, Bhuya eva ma bhagavan vijñāpayatu. Means, again, please tell me, because I don't get it. I don't understand it. Please get it. Please tell me again. And Uddālaka Ṛṣī says, Tatha. Okay, I will tell you. Ha uvacha. Yes, okay. I will do it. I will tell you again. O Somya. This is what Uddālaka Ṛṣī says. So I'll read the translation and we look into it. That existence, which is this subtle essence, cause, that all this world has for itself, that is the truth. That is the Atman. That thou art, Śvetaketu. Revered sir, please explain it further to me. So be it, dear boy, said the father. So what we see here is called this tvam asi. That. It sounds very familiar, so it's easy. Tvam means thou or you. Asi, are. That thou art or that you are. This is called a mahāvākya. Mahāvākya means a great statement. A great statement. And all of our Upanishads have a mahāvākya in them. If not one, many. Mahāvākya. So many people normally think there are only 4 mahāvākyas, but that's not true. There are many, many mahāvākyas in all of the Upanishads. But 4 are taken as the ones that are most prominent. There's Ayam Atma Brahma from Chandogya Upanishad in the Atharva Veda. There's Prajñānam Brahma in Aitareya Upanishad, the Rig Veda. And then there is also Aham Brahmasmi from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This is in Yajur Veda. And then there is Tatvamasi here in Chandogya Upanishad, which is Sama Veda. So the way it goes in a student's life, this is how they say in the tradition. The first statement, first great statement that a student gets is Prajñānam Brahma, means the self is consciousness. This is the first great statement that the student gets. The self is consciousness. Then the second statement the student gets is Tattvamasi, that you are, means that consciousness you are. And then the student meditates on that. Because when the teacher says that you are, then the student has to meditate on it, contemplate on it, inquire. The student says, Ayam Atma Brahma. I understand that this Atman, this self, is Brahman, is the self of all. I understand now. And then the student contemplates on it further and further and comes to the realization of Aham Brahmasmi. I am indeed Brahman. I am indeed Brahman. So this is how they say the 4 great mahāvākyas in the tradition. Now, why are these statements so great? Mahāvākya, why are they so great? Firstly, they reveal our identity with the Supreme Self. So it's a great revelation. That's Tattvamasi is a great revelation because it is telling me exactly how I am that. It is telling me that it's telling me of my glory, my infinitude, my real nature. So it is the statement that reveals our identity. When we come into this world, we feel like our identity is our name, the family that we're in, the country we've come from, the language we speak, the culture we practice, the career we take up. And we identify with all of these things and take that to be ourselves. But this tells us exactly who we are, that changeless self. See, the ego is such a illusory thing because when we go through our day, there's so many different identities we take up. We wake up, we're the waker. Then maybe we might sit down to pray or sit down to meditate, and we're the seeker. And then we might go out to meet our family or friends, and we are the father, mother, friend, the husband, wife, whatever it is. And then we may sit down to eat breakfast, and we're the eater. And then we may go to work, and we're the worker. We're the employee, we're the worker. And we may go out to meet our friends, and we're the friend. So in every day, in day-to-day life, my identity keeps switching. I'm a waker, seeker, mother, father, seer, hearer, taster, toucher. I am a doer, I am a knower. Keep switching, it keeps switching. As we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Pashyan, Shranvan, Sprashan, Jigran. It keeps switching, the identity keeps switching. And we take all of these changing identities, this bundle, and we call that I, like Shubhani. So that changing bundle of thinker, seer, seeker, eater, doer, that whole changing bundle in that day or in a span of a few months or years, I take that to be this Shubhani. And how fake it is, because this thing here, this bundle is not, it's so different. How you would see Shubhani is different from somebody else would see Shubhani, different from how I would see Shubhani. So it is it's a bundle of great difference, so many different viewpoints. And then I take that bundle and I say, that's me. So our whole lives, we are identifying with this bundle called the ego, the illusory ego also. And the world also strengthens that identity. Right? Everywhere we go, we have to show an ID card, and, sign in, sign up. What's your name? What's your email? What's this? What's that? So everywhere we go, there's a strengthening of identity. But it's only when we come to Vedanta or some, a spiritual path like this, where there is the breaking down of this illusory identity. And there's a revelation of our real self. And that is the beauty of the mahāvākya. So the mahāvākya is that statement which breaks down this illusory identity of the ego, and it reveals that real self. That's why it's called mahāvākya. Great statement. The second reason why it's called mahāvākya or great statement is because this is the direct path to liberation. The direct path to liberation or moksha is vichara. Vichara means self-inquiry. And self-inquiry of what or into what? Into these great statements. When we deeply inquire and clarity dawns on us, then that is the direct path to liberation. And this vichara or inquiry is not some intellectual process. No, it's not like, oh, I understand this Upanishad, and now I understand that Upanishad, and now I'm going to put these Upanishads together, and now I get thought flow. It's not like that. Vichara literally is when the teacher says, you're not the body, I can clearly see I'm not the body. Like very, very clearly, without any doubt whatsoever. When the teacher says that you are not this illusory ego, this bundle that we just talked about, I clearly get that. I clearly see it in myself, clearly see it without any doubt, any trace of doubt. That's called vichara. So vichara is a process by which we are able to clearly discern the self from the not self, and reality from unreality in our own being, not on paper, not in a book, but in our own being. And having gone through this vichara or self-inquiry in a very deep way, that is a direct means to liberation. Because once we know for sure, without a doubt, and we're so firm about it, then we will never take ourselves to be this limited entity. We will never do that. The way we feel that we are the body now, we will actually feel, how can I be the body? Right? So this mahāvākya vichara is a direct means to liberation now I'm going to add a clause, for a student who is prepared, who has a prepared mind. Because what happens is people can take this inquiry. There are people who can take this inquiry and clearly see the difference between the self and the not self, very clearly. But yet there's still some vasanas or some tendencies in there that they're struggling with. So that will need more work. For that, they'll need to do a lot of nididhyasanam or contemplation. But for the student's mind who's absolutely ready, just this simple listening and reflection, this vichara, is a direct means for liberation. Nothing more than that is required. So that's why it's a great statement. The third reason why it's a great statement is if you take the entire literature of the Vedas, the most important part is the Upanishads. You take the entire Upanishads, all of them can be summed into this mahāvākya, this great statement. So it is the crux of the entire teaching of Vedanta. And that's why, some people have said, if they take away all the literature we have, and they just leave us with Om, that's enough. Or Tattvamasi, that's enough. That's enough. We can make a whole scripture out of that because it's incredibly deep. So imagine if everything gets taken away, we just have that. That is called mahāvākya. And fourth is, it's because great people, great saints and sages have reflected on this. So its greatness is not only on the statement itself, not only on the result that it bestows, not only on its unifying aspect, but because great seekers have reflected. So it's called great statement, not an ordinary statement. So now here, what is Uddālaka Ṛṣī saying to Śvetaketu? He's saying, this is what I wanted you to know. I asked you, what did you learn in Gurukula? Yeah, Yena ashrutam shrutam bhavati. That by which the unheard becomes heard. Amatam matam. The unthought of becomes thought of. Avijñātam vijñātam syat. By which the unknown becomes known. Did you learn that? That was Uddālaka Ṛṣī's question. And that's what he wanted Śvetaketu to learn, that when you know the self, when you know who you are, everything is known. Everything is known because the self is the substratum of everything. So he says here that sa yaha, which, eshaha, that which is this animaha. Animaha means this subtle essence. Why is it so subtle, anima? Because we cannot grasp existence through the mind or the senses. We saw in Kena Upanishad when we studied, Shrotrasya Shrotra Manaso Manu Yat. It is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. It's so subtle, we can't grasp it. We cannot speak about it. We cannot see it. We cannot even think about it. We can't even experience it as an object because we're ever experiencing it. So it is subtle because it's beyond the ken of the mind and senses. And it cannot be known as an object. And even if it is very subtle, don't think it's like some small thing. Sometimes people think this Atman is some small, itty-bitty thing in our heart. No. Haitadatmyam idam sarvam means idam sarvam. Idam, this, sarvam, all of this. Haitadatmyam, it is the self of all of this. It is that which pervades all of this, that in which everything stays, that in which everything dissolves. That satyam, that is the reality, that is the truth. And in fact, he says, there's nothing else but that. In the bhashya, in the commentary, it says that na anyaha asti. There's nothing else. That's satyam. That is the only reality. That's the only reality, because that is the only thing that is changeless. When something changes, we don't know. Is it like this or is it like that? There's always a doubt. Is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? If there's always a doubt, how can that be real? But when something is absolutely changeless, then we know exactly that this is it. This is what it is. So that's satyam. It is that reality because it is changeless. And that changeless reality, which is the substratum of the world, sa-atma, that is the self. That changeless reality is actually also the self. Tat tvam asi, that you are. So now, take it from the macrocosmic to the microcosmic level. That which pervades the entire world, we said, is existence. And on that existence appears the entire world of names and forms. It appears on existence. And it is in existence and it goes back to existence. Now, come to the self. What is that which pervades my entire being? It is existence. It is awareness. And on this existence awareness, all of these names and forms of my being spring forth. So my identity as Shubhani, the seeker, or Shubhani, the student, or Shubhani, the learner, all of these identities spring forth. They spring forth from this pure being. And they exist in this pure being or existence, and they also go back into this pure being. So the exact same thing that's happening in the world is the exact same thing that's happening into me. That waker, that dreamer, all of it gets resolved into that sat, that deep sleeper. All of it gets resolved into that sat. And in my deep sleep state, as we have seen, I just exist as pure being. And when the world is without names and forms, it exists as pure being. So that world without name and form, that self in me without name and form, that is one pure being. That is Sat. That is Sat. It's the same Sat. It's the same Sat. And it will come in the next few mantras, it will come. It's the same, we know, because when we sleep, it's all the same for us. There's no difference. Our waking worlds are so different from each other, right? Our dream worlds are definitely different from each other. But in deep sleep, it's in the commentary that we have, it says it's an equalizer. We are all the same. We are all Sat. We are all pure being. So that reality, which is the substratum of the world, that is also the reality in me. That's also the reality in me. And it's very clearly, if we clearly analyze deep sleep state, it's very evident how we exist as pure being. And therefore, tat satyam sa atma, that truth is atma, tatvamasi Śvetaketu. And Śvetaketu says, bhuyaha, bhuyaha eva, means further ma vignapayatu, further please explain it to me, because I don't get it. I don't get it. He's confused because if we are going to Sat, if we are going to pure being every day, how is it that we don't know? And if we're coming from pure being every day, How is it that we don't know? He's confused. So Uddālaka Ṛṣī says, Tatha, so be it. Somya, let me explain. Let me explain. So now we will go to this ninth section, Navama Kandaha, where Uddālaka Ṛṣī will give a very beautiful example. So the intro to this is here, right? He says he wants to give an example because Yat prichasya ahani sat sampadya na viduhu sat sampannaha sma iti. How is it that every time, we merge into sat, and deep sleep, but we don't know we're merging into sat. And therefore, here is a example. So mantra number 1. Yatha somya madhu madhukritaha nistishtanti nanatyayanam vrikshanam rasan samavaharam ekatam rasam gamayanti. So let us see here. So what he says is yatha, just as Somya, just as O Śvetaketu. Think about madhukritaha. Madhukritaha means bee. Madhu means honey. Kritaha, the one who makes honey, is called madhukritaha. The bees, madhu nistishtanti, just as the bees make honey. Nanatyayanam vrikshanam. And they gather, what they do is they gather this pollen from different flowers, right? So different flowers, different trees in various directions. They gather rasan samavaharam. They collect these juices, these essences. So imagine a swarm of bees going to different flowers, and they're collecting juice or the essence from different flowers. Ekatam gamayanti. And when they come back, so they collect everything, and then they come to their honeycomb, and they put all of what they've collected into that honeycomb. So it becomes one homogeneous honey, right? So now he says the second mantra, te tatha tatra na vivekam labhante amushyaham vrikshasya rasaha asmi amushyaham vrikshasya rasaha asmi iti evam eva khalu somya imaha sarvaha prajaha sati sampadya na viduhu sati sampadyamahe iti. So what happens? Te tatra. So those bees, te yatha tatra, these juices, when they put them in that honeycomb, na vivekam labhante. They don't know, they don't have that discernment that amushyaham vrikshasya rasaha, that I came from this particular tree or this particular flower. Amushyaham vrikshasya rasaha asmi. I came from this particular tree or this particular flower. They don't have that. Iti evam eva khalu somya. In the same way, imaha sarvaha prajaha. All of these creatures, sati sampadya, when they, having merged into existence, into pure being, na viduhu sati sampadyamahe iti. They don't know we have merged into existence. So now I'll read this. As dear boy, the bees make honey by collecting juices from different trees and reduce them into one essence. And there, as these juices have no such discrimination as I am the juice of this tree, I am the juice of that tree. Even so, dear boy, all these creatures having merged into existence don't know we have merged into existence. So this is just to give Śvetaketu clarity. Now, how come when we go to deep sleep, we don't know that we are one with Sat? How come we don't know that? We don't know anything. Why is it? And because we don't have our identity. We don't know where we don't even know who we are in deep sleep. So like this, he's trying to say that when bees go out and gather this juice from different flowers, different trees, and they make it into one homogeneous honey, they themselves don't know that this juice is from this flower, this juice is from that flower, this juice is from that flower. They don't know. Everything just merges into one pure being. So when we go to sleep, we completely lose our individuality. And because there's a veil of ignorance, we don't know that we have merged into Sat, into pure being. But what happens is our individuality is not destroyed. It's not destroyed. It is just a kind of in dormant form. Because right when we wake up, what happens? We go back into our ordinary lives. So we go to sleep losing our individuality, but also not knowing that we've become one with our true reality, and we go back into our old forms again. So he said now in the next mantra, Ta iha vyagro va simho va vriko va varaho va. Ta iha vyagro va simho va vriko va varaho va. Kito va patango va damsho va mashako va. Kito va patango va damsho va mashako va. Yadyad bhavanti tad abhavanti. Yadyad bhavanti tad abhavanti. So what happens now when we go to sleep? All of us are one, but that experience is one and the same. But we get up again, and when we get up, he says here, the creatures that get up, they again become what they were. So yat bhavanti, this is the last line, whatever they are, tad bhavanti, they again become that. So if somebody was a vyagraha, somebody was a tiger, or simha, lion, or vrikaha, vrikaha means wolf, or varaha, boar, or kita, kita means a worm, or patanga, or moth, or damsha, or a gnat, or a mashaka, or a mosquito. Whatever they were, that's what they become again. So it says here, whatever these creatures are here, tiger, or lion, or wolf, or boar, or worm, or flying insect, or gnat, or mosquito, they become that again. So why is it now that we wake up from deep sleep not knowing who we are? It's because of our vasanas, our own vasanas. This is what pushes us out from deep sleep. So when we wake up, right? When we wake up, the first thing we do is we kind of figure out where we are, and sometimes we don't even know where we are. We're like, where did we end up? And we look for the time. So we ground ourselves in space and time. And what pushes us out is, I have to do this. I have to get up. I have to do this. I have to do that. All of the vasanas come out again. So because that individuality is dormant, again, that person is pushed out to waking state. And again, that person gets pushed back into deep sleep state. And again, gets pushed back out into waking state. So this person doesn't ever get an idea that they're merging into Sat because of that, those vasanas. So I'll read something here in the commentary that we all have, which I thought was very beautiful on page 69. It says here, the last paragraph, the man of wisdom who knows that he is Sat is always one with it. So the one who realizes that they are Sat or pure being, they're always one with it. They don't need to go to deep sleep, or they don't need to feel like I am only Sat in deep sleep. He knows himself to be the witness of three states, the beginning and end of creation, and the eternal imperishable reality. His experience of the truth is not conditioned by time or space or the state of waking or deep sleep. He does not think that he attains the truth in deep sleep, because how can he attain what he already is? So for the one who has realized this truth, they understand that they are ever Sat. They are ever pure being. It's just that it's evident. It's evident in deep sleep state. It's evident in samadhi. But the person of wisdom knows that they are ever this pure being. And thus, in the next mantra, I'll just read this once because it's the same message. Again, he brings forth the mahāvākya, saying to Śvetaketu, that place, you don't know where, that place where you don't know where you merge, that is called Sat, that is pure being. That place where people don't know where they go, that honey for the bees, that honey, that homogeneous honey for the bees, that homogeneous pure being, that is Sat. And that Sat is you. So this is the mantra. Saya esho anima. Aitadatmyamidam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tatvamasi Śvetaketu iti bhuya eva ma bhagavan vigyapayat viti tatha somyeti hovacha. So he says it again to Śvetaketu, tatvamasi, that thou art. And of course, Śvetaketu says, I still don't understand. Can you please teach me again? And Uddālaka Ṛṣī again gives him a different example, right? But now that example we will take up next time so that we can do the whole kanda, the whole section together, right? So just a few points. Today what we saw is that mahāvākya, a great statement of Upanishads, a great statement that is the crux of all Upanishads. And this is not to be taken lightly. And it's also not something that we can do japa on. It's not something that we just repeatedly say. It is definitely not hypnosis, not that kind of thing. This is the kind of thing where we have to think. This path is called Jnana Yoga because it requires a lot of thinking, a lot of vichara. The path of Karma Yoga, which I know you had a question about, and I will go into that also. The path of Karma Yoga is very much action-based. It requires a lot of selfless work, which we all have to do. And the path of Bhakti Yoga requires a lot of elevating our emotions. And the path of Raja Yoga requires a lot of discipline, meditation. But when we come to Jnana Yoga, it is a path of vichara. It's a path of just thinking, just sitting, thinking and thinking and thinking until I get all angles together and it becomes crystal clear for me. One is it becomes clear in class, but when I leave class, can I reproduce that same thing and gain the same clarity and have that same conviction? Can I do that? That process is mananam. So in class, we listen, but when I'm able to reproduce that knowledge, gain the same clarity and conviction and deepen it from all angles possible, that's called manana. These two are that vichara. So that is what's meant to be done with the mahāvākya. It's meant to be thought of reflected upon, inquired into. And then once we are clear, once we have a clear grasp of it, it's meant to be contemplated on in deep silence. Right? So we will stop here, and then next week we'll continue. Closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.